Mwezi gwa July twafuna interview ne President Bobi Wine nga twogera ku nsonga z'obuli bw'enguzi obwali bususse mu ggwanga oba obususse mu ggwanga. Mu mwezi ogwo gwennyini nga bannayuganda abali ku Twitter twekumamu omulimu ne tugamba tugenda kubaako protest gye tukola. Protest eyo oba okwekalakaasa okwo mu ddembe kwali kumanyiddwa nga March to Parliament, nga tulina demands nnyingi nnyo ze twali tulayinze down, ezimu okwali Anita Amongo okulekulira olw'obuli bw'enguzi bwe obwali bususse mu kaseera ako ng'era bukyasukidde ddala, kw'ossa ne bafo commissioners nabo okulekulira kozi bano nabo baali beetabye mu kukozesa ensimbi z'omuwi w'omusolo mu ngeri enkyamu oba mu kulya enguzi. Twalina demands zino nga tuzirayinze down era nga tuprotestinga oba nga twekalakaasa mu ddembe nga zetwagala zituukirizibwe. Bannaffe bangi baasibwa, baganda baffe bakwatibwa, poliisi abatulugunya bayisibwa mu ngeri z'enjawulo, ngeri omu eyakavayo juzijuzi wano ye Sami. Naye kino kyonna twakikola nga bannayuganda kozi nga tugamba enguzi eno enyiga buli omu. Twajja together as Ugandans, leaderless, partyless, nti oba wa NRM oba wa NUP oba wa FDC oba wa DP, kasita oba ng'oli munnayuganda ng'ate okimanyi nti enguzi eno ekola ki, ekukwatako. We twamaliriza President Bobi Wine yatuwa interview ne tubaako ensonga ze twayogerako naye ku buli bw'enguzi. Yeno gye tugenda okupremieringa olwaleero. Nga tutandika njagala kwebaza ttiimu gye nakola nayo, okwali Good Girl, Precious, Aiden, Bruce n'abalala bangi nnyo. Njagala kubeebaza. Mwebale nnyo omulimu ogw'amaanyi gwe mwakola okumakinga sure nti eno interview happeninga. Njagala otule okalire gw'ataafuna chance kuwuliriza na kulaba interview eno. Here is it for you. Don't forget, as you watch it, share it with somebody and subscribe. Tujafuna obudde olunaku olulala ate tukomewo tugianalyzing. Nze Dr. Morgans. Mwebale kubeerako. Nkukkiririzaamu baako kyokola. Let's start the interview.
taken over the country, and as a country can no longer hide it under the rugs. So tonight we talk about Uganda corruption stage with Mr. Robert Chagulanyi, the president of NO. Over the years, several high-profile scandals have been exposed, such as global funds, Chogam, NSSF mismanagement scandals, COVID-19 scandals, and of course most recent scandals in Parliament that have been exposed through an online exhibition called Uganda Parliamentary Exhibition, led by an online activist by a team called Agora. In this particular exhibition, so much was and is still being exposed, ranging from the speaker's excessive and wasteful expenditures, per diems, trips, donations, and so many others, which has led to Ugandan youth saying enough is enough and decided to hold peaceful protests and march to Parliament and demand for the resignation of the speaker, Right Honorable Anita Among, who was also sanctioned by the UK government, USA, and UAE governments of recent. So with that all said, allow me to bring in our guest, Manmosi Chagulanyi Robert, to give us his opening remarks and also give us his general view over Uganda corruption in general. Mr. President, you are most welcome. Good evening.
Thank you very much. Mic check 1, 2. Can you hear me very well?
Yes, sir, we can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm sorry you had to go through a lot for us to be on here. Thank God we're here. Thanks Dr. Morgan. Thanks Good Girl. Thanks Aiden and all of you friends that are here. Yes, my name is Chagulanyi Sengamo. I also pride in the nickname Bobi Wine and all these beautiful petty names that I've gotten across the country, including my name Musimbuzi, Obini, Ogenga PM, Ngobi, and the rest. I'm very glad to be here. I won't waste time since time has gone so much. Corruption is a mess. The problem is that we are yet to make our people understand the real meaning of corruption, because for them they think corruption is giving a bribe or taking a bribe. That is how little we look, how small we look of corruption. But as a matter of fact, corruption is the cancer that has killed us and is burying us. It is not just now. It is not just about this march to Parliament that corruption is coming on the forefront, but corruption has been, the way of life, in fact, the way of death in Uganda for the last close to 40 years since General 72 power. We have been raised in corruption, only that it gets worse and worse and worse every day. It started with bribing and taking bribes, then it went to embezzlement, then to grow like theft. Now it is in looting levels. It's all brought by the sense of impunity, the idea of zero accountability to anybody. That's, beginning from the moral corruption, where leaders behave in whatever way they want, to political corruption, where you find people get votes being stolen, elections being rigged with impunity, people being shot and dead, unarmed civilians protesting, giving or taking bribes by the most respected people, including religious leaders. So this has been a way of life, although of course under General 7, scandals have become much worse. We won't mention a month that went scandal-free, not only in Parliament, everywhere. I'm only glad that the intellectuals of now are rising up. As a matter of fact, when I was in the ghetto somewhere talking to ghetto youths, they were, indifferent wondering whether the elite of this world have only woken up to the corruption that is ongoing. Not only the looting of public funds in parliament or in other public offices, but even the moral corruption, a situation where people are picked, taken, and they disappear. And common people have always had the feeling of fighting and struggling alone. I'm only glad that eventually starting everywhere and eventually people are rising up, especially young people, especially landed people, people on X here, on Twitter, educated people, knowledgeable people. And I'm even glad that it's cutting across. It is tribeless, it is partyless, and of course it's genderless and ageless. I'm very glad to be here, and I hope to have this interactive, hear from you, and also share my views. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much, Honorable Brani. Now that you talked about the GNC that decided to take it on, you are yourself a millennial, and your generation has been talking about corruption, just like you said. Do you feel challenged that the GNC has rather chosen to take action?
Yes, I feel challenged, and it's a good thing. We should all be challenged. But I mean, I'm comforted by the words of Franz Fanon, who said, every generation must discover its mission and then pursue it or betray it. It feels like this generation, a generation of Gen Zs, has discovered its mission, or rather led the mission, because it's supposed to be a mission of all people, from the baby boomers to the Gen Zs and even the generations to follow. It's a challenge that the younger people have taken it a notch higher to action. Our generation has been just speakers, but at least we've spoken about it. Of course, a few of us dared to take a step, but you know, it takes multiple people. I'm just glad that this generation has approached it from a different perspective altogether. I hope they are not silenced. We try to take action, we continue to try to take action, but the resistance we get is the vulgarization of the cause and called reducing it to politics. When one talks about corruption, the regime, all those that are beneficiaries of corruption are quick to reduce it to blackmail, to reduce it to politics. But, and they always many times get their way, because the people that are talking about it are the people that have either run for office or are still or are running for office. So it is easy to twist it and say, these are politicians seeking for their own interests. But now that young people that are clearly not seeking office or seeking any position of responsibility, but just feeling the pain and rising to the occasion, is another thing altogether.
All right. As the leading opposition leader, and in terms and the team you lead, have you experienced any corruption? And if yes, how have you dealt with it? And what is the political cost of dealing with it?
I think the world has seen in recent times that corruption has cut across, including our own group that I lead. Yes, you have had some unsubstantiated claims, but also you've seen clear cases of corruption where one of our own, our former leader of opposition, got involved in a corruption scandal. It was very painful, but as a leader, I had to take a firm stand, and I'm very glad that the party stood along our values and we took action. Of course, yes, it comes with political costs. First, because corruption is the currency now, corruption is the fuel that is enabling those that rule over us to hold on to power. It is the exchange rate that people have to pay to stay in office, you know, we were disempowered. As a party, we appoint, we second somebody to go to the commission, and therefore, by virtue of the law, he who appoints can disappoint. However, this time we were disempowered and we could not recall the person that was involved in this corruption scandal. We could not recall them from the commission, even though we wanted. And this has been a benefit that has been given to the regime, by the regime, to all those people that have gone against our values. But not only that, corruption, like Honorable Senyoni always says, when you fight corruption, corruption fights back. And corruption has gone as far deep as respected institutions. You will note that recently a few of our colleagues actually even tried to use the church and even our traditional institutions to cover corruption. Unfortunately, some people buy into it because here we're talking about money, and money corrupts even the most moral people. So we had to take a lot of precious time that we would have used to sensitize our people to free themselves, but we had to pause and then first make it clear that it is indeed corruption, and we are trying to ensure that we have integrity before we claim to give integrity to the people. So yeah, it has been a cost, a huge political cost, but it's worth it if we have to be leaders worth our song.
All right, Mr. President.
All right.
Precious, let me check on the president. I like that you mentioned that the leader of opposition, Veteran Johnson, recently said, when you fight corruption, it certainly will fight back. Mr. President, given the country we are in, where the majority of us are actually poor, we have what it takes to fight back when corruption fights back to us.
Yes, you do. You have what it takes. Your morality, your integrity. You have what it takes. You only need to make that firm choice. It's a costly choice because it comes with intimidation, it comes with brokenness, but at the end of the day, it comes with pride that does not equate to anything. So I want to encourage you and all other young people that you have what it takes to fight that corruption, because it can be fought and it can be defeated.
Right. What will happen one week recently, we are having a talk with His Excellency Robert Chagulanyi Ssentamu about corruption. Of recent, we have had youths from all walks of life, leaderless, religionless, partyless, members of NUP, members of the NRA, members of the FDC, coming together and saying, you know what, we have an urgent issue, which is corruption at hand. And I want to thank every youth, wherever you are, decided to take chance or an opportunity in this. Mr. President, given what we've known about General Ssentamu, he aids and abates all wrongs. He's diametrically, he has been diametrically opposed to the position he has been taking. For example, in 1986, he said, the problem of Africa, Uganda in particular, is leaders that overstay in power. And he has overstayed in power. He has been coming out to then correct corruption, but again condone it. Why do you think Museveni has been adamant to act against corruption, Mr. President?
On a platform like this, I'm trying to be as diplomatic as possible. But again, because I'm talking to young people, I want to be as blunt and as honest as possible. I think
we are always not for being a realistic person.
Yeah, I believe that what stops General Museveni from practically fighting corruption is because he is corrupt himself. He was corrupted with power. There's this famous saying that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. General Museveni has absolute power, and that absolute power corrupted him absolutely. He cannot fight corruption because corruption is the biggest tool of control. He will pay lip service to the fight against corruption, but he will not fight corruption because it is corruption that is keeping him in power. It is the abuse of the law which is corruption. that is keeping him in power. It is the rewardism, policy that he has, where even the most corrupt people, for as long as they can serve his purpose, he will keep them in office. I mean, look at Anita Among, a person that is not even politically smart, that she gives herself out every time. She has confessed to looting public funds numerous times, but she continues to wield power. You've seen Mike Mukula, you've seen Jim Owezi, and many others. Corruption is what General Museveni uses. As a matter of fact, he has also said it numerous times that Anita Among helps him buy off opposition leaders to his side. So that still, will show you that General Museveni is not going to fight corruption. You've heard Mulyagonja, the former IGG, who said most corruption scandals are traced to General Museveni's footprint. Doorstep. I was talking about the numerous scandals that you've seen, the Global Fund scandal of Jim Owezi and Mike Mukula, up to the tune of 1.4 trillion was lost in between there. Nothing happened to them. They were instead rewarded. You remember the story of the junk helicopters in 1997? 45.4 billion lost, but because Salim Saleh helps him control the military, he ended there. It ended that way. The pension scam of 2010, you remember the likes of Jimero Amafa. You remember the Chogam scandal, including Sam Kutesa, his brother-in-law or something like that, including Gilbert Bukenya, including the likes of Nasser Sira. But because these people have always been his anchor in the population, you've had the scandals in the office of the Prime Minister. You've had the Validam scandal, you've had NSSF Utemagalo scandal, you've had scandal after scandal. But this is Uganda's way of life, in fact, way of death. So General Museveni has no will whatsoever to fight corruption because it's his tool.
But Honorable Chaplain, you speak of Museveni, who recently opened an anti-corruption unit at URA. He has the IDG, he has the State House anti-corruption unit, you had the anti-corruption unit. Don't you think...
Before you even go on with all the institutions or pseudo-institutions that he sets up, these are actually also windows of theft. I mean, you tell me that you are setting up a new anti-corruption unit to oversee the Uganda Revenue Authority, which loses 10 trillion every year, 10 trillion of our money, But again, the person in charge of that unit is it David Karemera, the same person that was convicted, is a convicted tax fraudster. He's a convicted thief. But now you appoint a thief to ensure that nobody steals. It is a joke. It is an absolute joke.
I think Mr. Museveni is playing the game of set a thief to catch a thief. President Bobi, please speak about the cynicism from some influential people about the fight against corruption.
You see, you're throwing about words extravagantly. For example, you're calling them influential. They don't influence us. They don't influence us because we no longer follow them. Yes, there's been a lot of cynicism, and that is guilt talk. That is guilt talk from these corrupt members of parliament, corrupt leaders, including religious and traditional leaders. They know the truth, but because they are corrupt, and you see the corrupt people always know which kind of engine to grease, so they keep fueling that engine. No wonder corrupt people will steal money and go build churches. Today, a church was being launched by Thomas Taegwa, the same person who is under question. So you won't fail to hoodwink a few people. radio presenters, TV presenters, so-called analysts, those armchair analysts, they will speak very good English, quote very smart laws in defense of corruption. Of course, ultimately, it fails that they have to deploy brute force to protect corruption. The people that are speaking up against corruption have a false sense of wrongness. They're trying to make them believe that they actually don't understand what they're talking about. That is the level of intellectual dishonesty that is being employed to defend corruption. Trying to victimize the victim.
Hey, Mr. President, we've read comments where people say that someone that has been caught red-handed in corruption should deserve death penalties or should be jailed for this long. Some are so extreme to the extreme, some are too lenient, too weak. Mr. President, help us understand what is NUP's policy about corruption or on corruption?
NUP's policy, like most political parties, I really don't want to talk about what we write or what we say. I want to talk about what we do. Of course, I will tell you that we have a zero tolerance policy to corruption, but that will only be words until we act on it. The NRM and all other political parties speak, very morally until it's time to act. For us, we don't only speak about it, but we act with the little power that we have. And if we are to get more power, then you will see what moral people use power for. Of course, moral actions.
Thank you, President. We want to thank every Ugandan out there that is listening to us. We're still taking on His Excellency Bacha Grand Center. We said the legitimate president of Uganda. We're talking about, Uganda's corruption scourge. Mr. President, please help us understand what is keeping us away the informal sector from the corruption peaceful protests. And what is the division? What causes the division in perspective of class? People look at corruption differently.
Thank you very much. That's a very, very important question. I hope we have some ghetto people on here as well. What is keeping away the Juakali, the informal sector, the ghetto people, the Kabayas of this world, the Edimutwes of this world? What is keeping them away? You see, we live in a society that is only uniting. And I'm very glad that's one victory of our generation, bringing together a generation, different tribes, different mentalities, different levels of education, different religious affiliations, but all of them united by the pain that they share. Clearly, we've all been sharing the same pain, but we are not connected as we are seeming to connect now. Initially, when myself and other people threw in our hat and came into leadership, the first stereotype was, Bobi wine now, Motuwabayayi boka, Geto boka, Tasoma boka, and all that kind of thing. Of course, ultimately, we bonded, although there has been still a separation of mentalities, where when towards the 2021 election, you saw a lot of common people, a lot of border riders, the market vendors, Batembe and all that coming into the politics. This scared the hell out of General 7. That for the first time, you saw drones, you saw abductions, you saw sodomy, you saw googling out eyes and plucking out teeth and cutting off of limbs. You saw extrajudicial killings because General 7 was so scared. And for a very long time, the common people have been, suffering, of course fighting in their own common way that they understand. You will note that there was a time, sometime last year, when Dr. Besigye was so angry that he said that you, the intellectuals, are the problem of Uganda, because once you are comfortable in your, 2-bedroom house and a 6-figure salary, you are alright until you're not alright. So this was noted over time that common people reached a time and thought our intellectuals are only on Twitter, are only on Facebook, are only online, and they don't come out. And again, because corruption has been so dressed out well, I don't call it corruption. Common people don't call it corruption. They call it theft, because it is theft. Somebody steals a whole road, somebody steals a hospital, steals a school. Now they steal futures of the young people. So when the intellectuals, and please pardon me when I call all of you intellectuals, we live in a country where even when one speaks good English is regarded an intellectual. So when you rose to the occasion, the common people needed to connect with the thing. For them, they see corruption as a problem. But again, they have bigger problems. They don't even have the right to be human beings. They don't have the right to exist. They are fighting to exist. So according to them, corruption, especially the way they understand it, Okuliembuzi, did not seem a very easily understandable problem. And that is why myself and many other people that explain have done and continue to do a great job to break it down for the people. I'm very happy about artists like Insa, like Azawi, and many others. They've made it easy for the common people to understand. And with time, I see the two sides bonding and acting together.
Thank you, Mr. President. I love the fact that you help us understand this deeply. Honorable, to so much many of that bridge that is between abagetu university for utekate bengani bamambala masuti tuba bakindapenda kugera the same page about
wedo manyino Uganda. Ya kirungi nnyo kizamu amaanyi wabula kye tulina okukola kwe kumakinga sure tuki breaking down to make people understand. Ekintu ekyasinga okuleeta abantu mu byobufuzi, especially when people power and NUP came, kwe kuba nti twabringinga politics ku street, omuntu n'amanya ebyobufuzi bimukwatirako wa, n'amanya nti abo bannabyabufuzi balaba be basalawo bbeeyi gyakulamu sukaali, be basalawo bbeeyi gyakulamu akawunga, ate be basalawo bamudwaliro waliyo omalagala oba tewali. Kati nekino ekya corruption omuntu weetaaga omunnyonnyola nti oyo Anita Among esente zabbye oba sente ze bamismanaginze $5,000,000 okweguliramu generator, ezo zibadde zisobola okuyamba health center yewammwe Rukunjiri oba Ekanoni Egomba n'ebirange runninga, zibadde zisobola okusasula abasawo. Ekyo bwe abantu bakina understandinga tekijja kulwanyisa corruption yokka, wabula kijja bayamba abantu okugetinga involved. Nzize nga kinyonnyola abantu bonna nti gali amawanga amalala tegakulaakulana kuba abantu bago bayine abakulembeze bayine empisa. No, kubanga abantu bali holding accountable. I'm trying to say that we need to make it clear to the young people of Uganda, especially from the ghettos, that other countries do not develop, or leaders in other countries don't do good simply because they are good. No, but because people hold them accountable. I will not say that President Ruto is a very good man, but he's doing good, he's respecting Kenyans because Kenyans are not taking crap from him. Now that we need to break it down for across all classes for them to understand that it affects us all if we sit back and relax, and it benefits us all if we rise to the occasion and equally demand what belongs to all of us. And finally, on that matter, it is important for all people to know that they are all taxpayers. You don't have to be a rich person to think that you're a taxpayer. Even the soda that you bought, the salt that you buy, everything you pay tax. So everybody should look at it, at themselves as as a full taxpayer. So that is going to take people like you, Dr. Morgan, people like you, Good Girl, people like you, Aiden, and all of you friends that are here to try break it down more and more and more for the people. Like I was saying, for me, I see only positivity. When I see people like Judith Ann, when I see people like Saint Nelly, when I see people like religious leaders who are outspoken, people like Azawi, voices that are listened to, breaking this down to the common people, their fans who are in millions will follow suit, and they will sometimes even understand it better and pay even more interest. And that way, we'll be able to go from one step to another.
Thank you, Honorable Chambrani. Mr. President, we've talked about Kenya, we've talked about President Ruto letting the Gen Zs protest. But as we all know, it's a public secret where there is a swarm of people demonstrating or protesting to capture the attention of the government or the president in power. There will be some seekers. We shall not say generally that another commission. Mr. Chamberlain, if you were in power now, would you let the Gen Zs raise and demonstrate against corruption? And looking at the demands they have, for example, they are calling for resignation. The Speaker of Parliament, which is the demand number one, they are calling for the resignation of the 4 backbench commissioners. They are calling for the reducing the number of parliament members. They are calling for any member of parliament that has been caught involved in a corruption scandal should resign and be investigated. Number 5, they call for a life audit for all the members of parliament and publicize. Number 6, they call for the cutting of salaries and allowances for all parliamentary members to be millions, but also call for allowing Ugandans of the pray or exercise their democratic right of peacefully assembly. Are these relevant?
Of course they are relevant. Of course they are relevant. I'll answer the first question. Would I let the Gen Zs protest? I want you people to know that your right is not given to you by the state. You have it. It's given by God, but you also have it enshrined in the Constitution. And this generation must be the last generation to even think that the right to protest for a right is granted by state. Nobody is going to call you to protest against them. You just have that right, and you should never let anybody make you believe otherwise. So it would not be upon me as president or anybody as president to allow people to protest or not. It is their right, you know. About whether the calls of the young people are justifiable and achievable, absolutely, there's nothing that determined people cannot achieve. Absolutely nothing. And history has shown it. The reason why you see General Museveni deploying the military on the street is to stop you from starting, because when you start, he knows he will not be able to stop you. I mean, he will not be able to stop you from taking it to any level that you would want to take it. So you just have to go. You don't have to demand. I mean, you don't have to request. You don't have to beg for the right to protest for your rights. Let Kenya give you as an example. It is all achievable. And I think the first thing should be, of course, I hear them demanding the resignation of the speaker. That should have happened long time. The 4 backbench commissioners should have resigned long time ago. We saw some pseudo-intellectuals trying to castigate us for calling for the resignation of our comrade when he was found in that corruption scandal. I'm very glad that the whole nation can see it. But they should also call for the resignation of the so-called fountain of honor, because he is the chief priest of corruption. This is a person that is not only rewarding corruption, but facilitating corruption and defending corruption. So if you break the defense of corruption, then corruption will crumble like a pack of cards.
Absolutely right. We have NUP, and this has been the lead opposition party take I want us to understand in the context of how is NUP, being that it is the leading position, but other people have called it the option of, option. How has it taken charge of fighting corruption and holding the government accountable in other areas? It's just apart from using the parliamentary front.
Like we said in the beginning, that we went to parliament not to be the opposition, because we actually won the election, but we were relegated to the opposition under the circumstances that, because of time, I won't go into. We use the parliamentary platform, but because it is very tightly controlled, you will see that when Anita Among is presiding over the House, she will use all manner of obscenities, all manner of humiliation to anybody that dares to raise a voice against corruption. It's only when Taeva, and not that the saint himself, that he was sharing the House, that a few people like Alion were able to speak against corruption. Now, Parliament is only an institution. It's only one institution, which is also, under the grip of General 7. We believe in activism, and we have always been calling for protests against all, impunity, all abuses, not only corruption, but also human rights violations. Of course, you have always seen the response of the timid regime: brutality, abductions, extrajudicial killings, name it. But we continue. Like I've been saying, it is, I continuously say it because I believe that this has come as a blessing to see our political people rising to the occasion to fight corruption. I hope it does not end. I hope they don't compromise the young people, because that is what General 7 does. They will call a few young people to have them denounce the cause, and that's the end of the story. But because now this is leaderless, I believe it will go on, because, how many people can General 7 buy?
Okay, thank you, Mr. President, yet again for sparing time to talk to us. And I also want to thank Ugandans that have spared time to listening to the President as he talks to us. As I conclude, Mr. President, one of the things that our generation that has learned from you is expectation.
Now, Parliament is only an institution. It's only one institution, which is also, under the grip of General 7. We believe in activism, and we have always been calling for protests against all, impunity, all abuses, not only corruption, but also human rights violations. Of course, you have always seen the response of the timid regime: brutality, abductions, extrajudicial killings, name it. But we continue. Like I've been saying, it is, I continuously say it because I believe that this has come as a blessing to see our political people rising to the occasion to fight corruption. I hope it does not end. I hope they don't compromise the young people, because that is what General 7 does. They will call a few young people to have them denounce the cause, and that's the end of the story. But because now this is leaderless, I believe it will go on, because, how many people can General 7 buy?
Okay, thank you, Mr. President, yet again for sparing time to talk to us. And I also want to thank Ugandans that have spared time to listening to the President as he talks to us. As I conclude, Mr. President, one of the things that our generation that has learned from you is exposing the corrupt. Is, when we get information about any corrupt scandal, is putting out, we the ghetto people, tukiita kulalisa. Kasita tufuna akamwanyi kunakuna netutegera nti kano kakyamu nga tukayibwawo nga tukakateekeko. Mr. President, ng'ogyeko okulalisa ffe abantu abawansi mu ghetto, option ki gye tulina mu kaseeko n'abakulembeze bwa kisobozi?
Okulabisa is the first step, because when you expose something wrong, you are going to awaken even those that were sleeping to rise to the occasion and fight against that evil. So exposure, kulabisa, temulekera kulabisa. But you can do much more than kulabisa. Bomalo kulabisa, gamba ne munno naye alabise, n'omulala naye alabise. Social media has played a huge role. No wonder Facebook is banned in Uganda. I hope Twitter won't be banned in Uganda. Reach out to them in person and personally, but most importantly, peacefully. Reach out to them, build study groups or teams of activists, not following any political party, but following morality and what you believe in as a person. And then you do exactly what you young people have called for. We can't reinvent the wheel. It has always been demonstrating, picketing, and protesting, and that works. Historically, that is how slave trade was ended. That is how colonialism was ended. That's how dictatorship has ended in many places. And corruption is just, another terminology of wrongdoing, of impunity. Now this is stealing with impunity. This is perverting, moral intentions with impunity. So protesting looks like is the ultimate for us. Of course, non-violent protests work a great deal. General Museveni has spent almost 40 years stockpiling weapons to fight against people, even those unarmed people. So the people that he fears most are the unarmed people, because they render his guns useless. And you will note that I'm talking about General Museveni a lot, because he is the presiding officer of all this. We must not cheat ourselves to think that anybody else is doing this. Even Anita Mong, she's only a tool, like Kadaga was, like Kayihura was. You cannot just, yes, you will blame Kayihura for the brutality and human rights violation, but for whom was he working? You can blame Anita Mong for the theft, yes, she has stolen and she deserves all the sanctions. But under whose watch is she stealing and for whose benefit? Absolutely, General Museveni. So all these are only pawns that are being played. The master player, we know him. And we know what corruption is benefiting him. And we know that once corruption stops, he will stop. Therefore, once corruption stops, he will fall. So he won't allow corruption to fall. We have to protest against corruption, but the root cause of corruption we all know. Finally, on that matter, we should be keen on affairs of our country. Abducting people and disappearing them, that is corruption. Stealing public funds, that is corruption. Rigging elections, that is corruption. The police not doing their work and playing politics instead, that is corruption. So corruption comes in very many shades, and we must combat it in whichever way it comes.
The president says corruption comes in very many forms, and we must combat it in any way it comes. The march to parliament is still on. It is a nationwide peaceful protest where we, people of Uganda, are going against the corruption that is rampant in our country. Tomorrow, which is Monday, we shall have us to stand surety for our members that were arrested in the two physical peaceful protests that we had, one on Tuesday and another on Thursday, and the same will happen on Tuesday. We shall be having going to court to stand surety for our friends and comrades that have been arrested for peacefully demonstrating, but also having an online protest. Wednesday, we shall hit the streets. Mr. President, are we here to see the Bobi Wine on TT?
First, it should not be about Bobi Wine. Whichever Bobi Wine shows up, now you know what you have to do. you cannot claim you don't know what to do. Reason why I even did not get involved immediately, no matter how much I was banning to join new people. Many of my colleagues are banning to join new people, but we don't want the naysayers to vulgarize it, to say, oh, now this is about Bobi Wine. No, it must be about everybody. That's why for now I'm just encouraging you. I am banning to join you, but I want people to understand that it is not about any political party and it's not about me. You were asking, sorry to take you a little bit aback, but you were asking, you were asking whether they will allow the protests or not. The question is not allowing protests. Just don't allow corruption. If corruption was fought, if the regime, if the government did not allow corruption, young people will not be in prison today because they would have no reason to protest against corruption. It's not about allowing protests. Don't allow corruption. If you've allowed corruption, then you have no more authority to stop protests that are fighting corruption. They wouldn't have left the corruption to go on in the first place. The reason why people are fighting themselves is because those that are supposed to fight corruption are instead shielding it. Sorry, you had asked an even different question. Sorry, I diverted again. Would you mind asking the question again?
Yes, I asked you, are we yet to see the Bobi Wine of OTT, which you replied to us that as long as we have as many Bobi Wines as we have.
You will see where freedom is concerned. Me, I have my personal issues. I am not free. I cannot sing in my own country. I cannot even go to church comfortably. So me, I have beef with this regime. And any part of me that is not free, be ready to see Chakulani, be ready to see Bobi Wine, be ready to see Chibanda, be ready to see Mitembo, be ready to see Musingus. You'll see anybody. But make sure you rise to the occasion yourself. Don't leave it to me.
All right, Mr. President. The President gives us an assurance that anytime soon he will be hitting the streets with us. Remember, this is our constitutional right to demonstrate peacefully. So we call upon Ugandans from wherever you are to mobilize as much as we can. We have always talked about how corruption affects us in all ways. We have seen painful stories on Twitter. We have seen how we lose parents in hospitals because the hospitals don't have generators. And yet, Among and Tayewa decided to pay themselves generators. We've seen a child on the poster saying, you know what, one dress of Anita Among can build a better school for us. My co-host, are you good to go in with me? Precious? Precious seems to be having network problems. We shall be having some questions. Aiden, would you help me with getting people on board for questions for Honorable Chablani? We want to continuously thank you for sparing time and maybe your schedule to come and say one or two to us. As we get the speaker, Mr. President, can we talk about the artists that are silent?
Well, what do I say? What do I say about artists that are silent? Of course, it's frustrating, it's disappointing. None of the artists can claim not to know what's happening. Like I've said, I always want to salute those that respect the pain of their people. People like Kinsa, people like Judith Hart, people like Azawi, people like That's Vibes, people like Big Eye, people like Aziz Azion, people like... There are so many artists, when we're talking about artists, let us not start from those that have betrayed their people. Let us start by thanking those that have stood with their people. Njagala nnyo okwebaza abo ba artists bonna. Sagala kusokera ku abo abatunza abantu. Kansooke kwebaza abo abayimiridde ku mazima. Tubalaba bannange mwebali. Tuyinza obutabogerako nze kati ba artists abamu bambi mba saagala baleetera lizibu. Kati saagala kwogera kumwana ono muto azaawi naye alina obwongo buli nga bwa muntu wa myaka 50 kubanga alaba ebintu nabyogera, and she's a girl, she doesn't need so much as a star. So we salute you, young lady, and many other artists. We also have senior artists that would have otherwise used their voices, but they prefer comfort. They prefer to be comfortable. They are silent about the pain of their people until they are the victims. So while I salute the artists that have stood with their people, I know that some artists ought to look deep into their conscience and know that it is these common people that help them rise. And if your people are not okay, you're also not going to be okay as an artist. And we should take examples from those that came before us. Fela Kuti told us that art, especially music, should be not only for entertainment, but also for betterment of society. So yeah, I don't want to speak so much about artists. Artists misunderstanding. Artists bagamba mazima b'oluvannyuma lwa byonna nabo bennyini bajja kukiraba ensonga lwaki ba artists abamu basirise kuba bali bought out. You remember there was 30 billion that was passed some time ago for apparently developing artists. Up to now they cannot tell you what that money did. There was an effort to push for the copyright law to be amended esobole okuyamba ba artists. Naye ba artists baba keeping nga beggars. So many of them are being used by the regime. No wonder you'll find them even when they know the truth. But we salute those that have stood for what is right.
Thank you, Mr. President. We also, as Ugandans, continue to applaud artists. There is a quote that says, the civilians of the country is not complete without its art. I don't know if I've said it right. Rodokai Mr. Martin Jr.
Yes, my brother. Yes.
You said you have a question for the President.
Yes, first of all, I want to say thank you so much to Mr. President for providing yourself for this conversation.
Thank you.
And I want to start, asking some things that you've commented on. One, you took on a very decisive action when you stood against Mpuga's corruption, suspended him from various positions and publicly addressing his corrupt practices. Despite his significant experience and status in politics, you are like, hey, you did the wrong thing and I'm going to expose you. However, following these measures, Mr. Mpuga has publicly denied the wrongdoing on social media. He's going on mainstream media and denying, and he continues now to personally criticize you. He remains the man of the political party you lead. My question, one question, how do you plan to address this situation? I mean, is there any appropriate consequences for his actions? And do we expect any to do anything as a disciplinary committee? What are they going to do? What are you going to do? Number two, they're very short questions. I remember you said in one song, you said, my father said there's more politics in the music industry than in the parliament. Forgive them, father. They don't know whom they're dealing with. And I understand probably where you're coming from. At the time you were dealing with folks, probably you had started the music career almost at the same time frame. The likes of Baby Cool and Chameleon. When you came to the politics, you almost applied the same approach. The question I want to ask you, how did you get over this confidence? Because, and why am I asking this question? There could be a minister from Zimbabwe who only has 20 followers on Twitter and is afraid to take on the folks of these, the life of these folks who are well established, they are rich, they are famous, they have a following, and they are afraid. But when you came, joined the police, you were like, hey, I don't care about who you are. If you do a wrong thing, I'm going to stand against you and I will expose you. So how would you say to this? There could be one who only has 10 followers and is afraid, how do I even question a man who has over 500,000 followers on social media platform? And the last question, Mpuga is sort of like you said, is gaslighting people. Now, he's asking for you to debate him First of all, I find it extremely shameless. This is the highest level of gimmick that is completely, I don't know, it's clowning on the highest level. I want to ask you a question. Are you going to debate Mpuga? Thank you.
Unfortunately, Mordecai, you did not ask. Debate about what? About whether or not corruption is good? Oh, I think we lost Melissa. But I'll say that it will be absurd if we personalize this. This is not about my former deputy president or anybody else. It's about the evil of corruption. We stand against corruption, not against anybody. We don't stand against Puga, we stand against corruption. And anybody that fits in that bracket, we stand against. Honorable Namboze made an analogy one of the interviews when she said, we used to throw stones to evil together. But when you get up one time and say, I am throwing stones at you, that means you crossed and went to the evil side. So we are not against anybody, we are against a vice, and that is corruption. And even when one of ours has been found culpable, we shall not have double standards. That's our policy. Mordecai also asked about what he seemed to term as bravery of taking on the wrongdoing in our politics. And he imagined a person that has such a small following and they wonder whether they can dare to take on the powers that be. I'll tell you, Mordecai, the one man said, and I agree with him, that one man plus the truth is the majority. So if you stand by the truth, you will have majority of the people. A few who stand for the wrong might be outspoken, they might be powerful, but ultimately the truth prevails. It never loses a fight. The truth has never lost a fight. So, yeah, stand for what is right, and you'll be shocked how many people you will be representing. You will be shocked how many people will come to stand against you. I mean, here we come. We are standing against Africa's most brutal dictator, who has been in power for almost 40 years. Bank of Uganda is in his hands. UPDF is in his hands. When you go against Museveni, you are going against Uganda Revenue Authority, you're going against Uganda Police, you're going against Parliament of Uganda, you're going against all, institutions, including those that are not government institutions. But nevertheless, we take him on. And we are constantly surprised that we wake up alive every other day. The truth is more powerful, and there is also God. I know we have some atheist people here, but you know that there is God, and God always stands on the side of the truth. So that's one thing that keeps us going. And finally, you still were asking how we are going to deal with those that have been found culpable of corruption in our party. Unlike I numerously quote Honorable Senyonyi, that when you fight corruption, corrupt fights back. And in fact, in most cases, corruption fights back very ferociously. You notice that ever since we brought that scandal to the limelight, there's been a lot of empowerment from the government side to cause divisions and fights within the party that we lead. We couldn't do so much because Madam Anita Mong, with her impunity, you saw her twisting all the rules to keep her fellow culprits in office. We couldn't do so much with our constitution, as you know that our party constitution, after we amended it, It was supposed to be ratified by the Electoral Commission, and we can't use it to hold some people accountable for now. However, our biggest resource has always been the people, and we've thrown these people back to the population. And I'm sure you've been seeing the population dealing with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, for picking on Mordecai. Actually, Mordecai is happiest, doesn't it? We joined by Elpas. Elpas, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, Mr. Magoza.
Greetings to everyone in the space. It's a blessing. Greetings, His Excellency.
Greetings, my brother.
Yes, we give thanks. First of all, I'd like to thank Bobi for always standing and always championing causes like this because he cares for the country. And I would also like to thank, personally, I'm not even going to say much, but I would like to thank the people that are standing, because the youth are resolute because they are hungry for the truth, you know, they're hungry for change in how our members of parliament are acting, most of our leaders are acting. They are resolute because they are hungry for that, and the leaders still refuse to do what they ought to do. They instigate and abuse when they ought to diffuse the problems that are piling up on me and you. And then they seem shocked by the things we choose to do, as if we ain't supposed to be offended by their moves. Guys, we're offended by how these people move, and it's really sad that they want to tell us how to react. How can you ask me to react the way you want me to react when what you're doing is wrong? People are placed in positions to actually make sure that the life of Ugandans is easier, is softer. People can find a way to actually feel happy being in their country. People in Uganda no longer feel like you can make it in Uganda. That's why so many people live in Uganda. You have so many that are down. Why you're having all these things happening is because people don't have hope in making it down here. But politicians have hope every single day, because of the money that comes in, that they get all this money, that they get foreign funding, that should help the many, helps the few. And it's really sad. And when you see our own president stand and be against us when we actually championing this cause, saying, you know what, we do not like what you guys are doing. The president of Uganda came into power saying that he's fighting things like corruption and unfairness. When we come and say we're fighting that, he should be joining us immediately. Because what we are fighting for is the thing he stood for when he was coming into power. It's only right for him to also be on our side, but he's not. Because I think he's very, very aligned with the people who are doing what they're doing. And then he pretends that he cares, that there's change, or there's corruption, it's really, really bad. We had a march, he also had a march. Why should the people march to the parliament when they are actually showing that they're frustrated by the parliamentarians? Why? Why should it be hard? Why should people be in prison? As we speak, we have so many of our friends in there, and it's really, really sad. I pray that the day comes where many of us can stand. Because the problem we have is that whenever some stand, others don't stand. And it's really one of the things that really hurts the most. The first time we had a match with Bobi, we were so many. And the time came for us to actually move, and we were like them, to be honest. We were joined by other people as things were going on who didn't even know what we were up to. But because of our voice and what we came up with, they joined us. I just pray that many of us stand, because what we are standing for is a noble cause. It's not something that we are trying to hate on Museveni. Personally, I don't hate the president. I hate his doing. I hate how he runs the state, but I don't hate him as a man. There is no hate in my heart. I don't think I would feel like, oh, you know what I hate, I don't like the president. respect him as an elder, but we don't respect his acts. We do not respect how he runs the country. We do not respect how he protects the people who do evil to the country and the people. Because what is going to happen is that, and we all know, this is what I'm telling you, something you already know. We all know that every money that is coming from outside Uganda to come here and help us, that is actually stolen and all that, it's us that are going to pay. We the younger people, these people are going to be dead already. It's going to be us to suffer. And if we don't stand now, before things get worse, we have a problem. And most of these parliamentarians have to be put to book, to be honest, because most of them don't respect their positions. They were put in positions to do good by the people. And what are they doing? Most of them can't even sign bills so that they go out there and see how they can table a topic like corruption. Some of them can't even sign. Because some of them are part of NRM, and with NRM I think there's a lot of group thinking, which is really, really bad, where people join a thing and just think as a group. You have to think as an individual, because you are voted by your people in your area. You have to respect them and champion them. I pray we have more people in the parliament that really respect Ugandans, respect the money that comes in to help Ugandans so that it does what it's supposed to do. We talk about corruption, we don't talk about theft. This is theft. It is way past corruption. This is theft. And those are my words. I don't want to say much.
And thank you, Apas, for always being vocal. Mr. President, would you like to come in?
I'll just salute Apas. Apas, thank you very much for saying those things as an artist. Sometimes I hate the fact that I am, a politician. I hate calling myself a politician, but it takes away a lot of my moral authority, because the truth that I say is very easily vulgarized as, you are no more politics. But when an artist like Apas comes out to speak about these things, it makes a lot of sense, and I would encourage other creatives, sports people, celebrities to speak this truth. Those are things Muhammad Ali did. These are things that Miriam Makeba did. I was watching that. I know we idolize Nigerian artists, but I saw Nigerian creatives coming out to fight against the squad that was called Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SWAS. SAS. It's a certain police unit that was terrorizing and killing people. And Nigerian young people rose to the occasion, including young people. And it became trendy, it became fashionable to fight for what's right. Interestingly, artists in Uganda, I saw them hashtagging End SARS because it was trending. The same artists that are silent today when their fans are being arrested, sodomized, when their young fans are in prison today for fighting against corruption, which also affects those very artists. So thank you very much, Apas, for raising your voice, and I hope many other fellow creatives will pick a leaf.
All right, let's have a question from Canada. Please, if you have a president, keep requesting for the mic. Have some few minutes to go. We shall take it.
Thank you, Dr. Morgan, for hosting this space. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, Ugandans and friends of Ugandans, wherever you are. I would like to thank His Excellency Robert Chagulanyi for sparing time to come and speak to this cause that has aroused many youths in the country, and many youths have been organizing the past week, and we're going into the second week. I want to quickly make two requests to the President. One, this movement has been seen so much as something that is online, and a selected class of people are participating in it. And we know that your voice goes far and wide, especially on the people who on the downtrodden. I'm only asking you to lend your voice to us seriously, like more times, especially in this time now that we're intensifying the request for corrupt leaders to step down and be answerable for all the crime they've done. Secondly, this is almost like a question. As a leader of the National Unity Platform, and I'm sure that you know the impact of Mpuga being the leader of the front in Parliament for that while. In retrospect, when you think about it, do you think that, for example, if it was Joel to start right from the beginning, or let's say Zake, or a genuine person who is really, hell-bent on fighting corruption and misleadership, do you think we would be in a different place right now? And also, what can we do this honest leaders, all the corrupt people like Anita Mon and you've been close to people like Kuka. What else do you think, what other approach apart from moving to Parliament? Do you think, we can probably go to their homes? Can you give us any clue or anything you think about that? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. About the request that you made, man, we owe it to you. We owe leadership to you, especially me. You elected me. Many people that elected me, I owe them a service. So just remind me when you see me forgetting, because even we leaders, every once in a while, we have to be reminded. I'm always here. I am happy to speak more and act more. Unlike I was saying, I'm at pains that I've not joined you already. Because first and foremost, we want this to be organic, to be a people-led revolution. But we as leaders are also willing to play our part. We just don't want to own this. We don't want this to be an NUP thing. We don't want this to be a Bobi Wine thing. It should be, for lack of a better word, people power. It should be the power of the people. But we are fully in support, fully in solidarity, and anytime we are required, we are up for service. Asking about our former leader of opposition and whether we regret appointing him. No, we don't regret, because in life you get one thing when you take a step. You either win or you learn. Now we didn't win with him, but we learned. We know how to go about issues. We made a test, such as serious test. We are thankful that we took a firm moral stand, and it's on that background that we still today to claim our integrity. Would it be better if it was Joel Senyenyi from the beginning? I am not God. And neither am I saying that Senyenyi is a saint. We continue to pray for him, but most importantly, hold him accountable. So also you keep praying for us, but also hold us accountable. Because, one dictator was asked, why did you become a dictator? And he said, nobody stopped me. So anybody can get spoiled at any time if nobody stops them.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can we have another question from Mutuzo?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
So, I hope everyone is well, given the circumstances. Mine is not really a question, it's more of an announcement. I'm sorry if that's not allowed. But given the reach that this had, I thought it would be a good opportunity to mention this. Court hearings for the bail for for the bails for the case that we arrested start tomorrow, and given how much we need for the bails to be given, we need more support, we need more contributions. So far, the people that have received bail have been given bail at 500,000 to about 5 million. So that means we are working very blindly here. We can't give an estimate, but we do need a lot of that money. So please, if you have anything to spare, my pinned tweet has numbers that you can contribute to. We really need the help for bail, for medical aid, for visiting the guys that are in prison. We need all the help that we can get. The second announcement is about sureties. We need a lot of people to stand for sureties too. Every person that has been put in prison needs 2 to 3 sureties. So if you can make it, you just need to get an LC1 letter, introduction letter, and your national ID. Please come through for us. This fight is not for just the people that were arrested on the street. It's for all of us. We understand not everyone may be able to step on the street. However, you can contribute in every possible way that you can. It could be through a tweet, through financial contribution, through being a surety. Please come through for us. The bail hearings start tomorrow and probably stretch up to about 16th of August or so. That is all I had to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matilda. Let's have Judy Khan. Judy.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Morgan, for having me. Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. President. I'm going to use Uganda. Jagari and President Wafe, Robert Chagulanyi. As a name and as someone abali who fight against corruption. Mr. President, during the pandemic, I did a community reach out after I had been approached by a very old lady. That was the time that we never LDU nga omu kuba LDU yarebinze omwana w'omukade nga ali lubuto. So I took upon that case. Nengezaako okulwana netugenda kooti emakindi. And the funny part is nebatuwadde okugenda mu kooti. So we got to this to the date, netugenda makindi. Surprised, funny enough, never tugamba, we are very sorry. Omusibe tebasobodde omuleeta kubanga tebalina mafuta. Bwena mulina ssente tubadde tuteesa muleete ssente z'amafuta omusibe wammwe basobole okufuna amafuta bamuleete. So when we were just talking about hospital, I remember that this is also some places that corruption is related. And Jagala prayers are Bobi wine because this is the moment I've been praying for. I've prayed for the day that you come out and speak. And we all listen to you. I have been inspired by you. And you pushed me to standing up for what's right and for the people. And if you are Jagala, okwogera kuli kubakyala tulina abakyala bangi muwanga abamanyi, tulina abayimbi bangi abamanyi, era tuli bazadde abaana baffe balwala ne tugenda mu ddwaliro that's a lot of problems but some of us are like that of course still obeerera okusasula extra naye kinumye nnyo okulabanga mu bakyala bonna abamanyi be tulina mu Uganda tewali n'omu eyafudde okwogerako eddoboozi lye okugjako asawe bwe twakalaba juzi omwana muto yali mukwogera omwana atalina na baana naye atanaba kuzaala naye nga bonaabona abazadde kw'abakyala abayimbi ba Irene n'abatewo ba Juliana Kanunzi bangi ba Station Mayanja ba Chosen Becky, who is actually pregnant right now, and I'm wondering whether she's actually going to be flown out of the country. But she's, of course, she's media just as well. It's very sad that none of these people has actually come out to support the youth and use their voices. So, yeah, we'll work on the submitting Thank you so much, and thank you, Mr. President. I'm sure this coming week is going to be a win-win. I was waiting for you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Morgan. Thank you, the good girl. Thank you, Uganda. May God keep you.
Thank you, Judy. We shall have two speakers, then we have the closing remarks from the President, and we call it a day. We need to, let's get to women. Bear with me. My cohorts are having troubles with the internet, so I have to go with the one by myself. Big Bamba, you have a question for the President, please.
It's a time to come.
These ghetto youths down in the ghetto because they believe.
I think that's why most leaders are making mistakes. Most people are making mistakes. They are monkeys that you come into power. You're the MP of some area. You're an MP of whatever. You overquad was speaker. Need to support a to that humanity. You know, Gamba Bantu Jennifer Jenna Jokurebia. When two other centers, you know, the names they put it on Range Rover and baby Marco. You know, what are my people going to step back there? Means Gulamu generator 500 million shillings, like a lot of money. And also, I would say, corruption. Corruption is the end of everything. I was having a class today with some experts, and we were talking about corruption. But I related it that corruption is violating, I can relate it to as human rights. Because in whatever way you do your corruption, what you're saying to them,
we shall have the next question from Mugisha, then of course. Mugisha?
Okay, thank you very much, everyone who is here. I thank you, Excellency Bobi Wine, Judith Hard, neighbors, and everyone who is here. And in your way, the first thing I would say is that I will ask the President is, you know, you're an icon, regardless being a good President of the National Unity Party. You have been inspiring young people from the ghettos way back. As a father, as a Ugandan, as a loving citizen of Uganda, how best can you lend our voices to call out the ghetto youths, these ghetto youths down in the ghetto, because they believe in you, they listen to you. We've tried to engage them, but they say, President, this is not politicizing it. That's why I say, as a father, as a person who loves his country, as someone I know from way back, when you're still in the ghettos, you know, elevating the lives of people in the ghettos before becoming a politician. How best can you lend us your voice to call out these young ghetto people so that they can all come and join us, especially on Wednesday and days to come, so that we can make our voices heard. And lastly, President Amelia nito amarado tukine tukumi munonga abakiku barikubi ensione kubi chonko kushiza yo mukurembeze natubiha bitwe nito bali uchitu atukozesa nkapons twine kubikobongo witu tukamanya bihangane iki twena abanyankore barikuvuga ko bantunga mu burahamwe ihangane iki twena byo magina ko mugabo chonka twavunama ubwo mshita naza kugenda aturekera amabanja mukareba ebyakongo bakibazaako natimba kyokka nito baluza kushashula esente zikaza nomubajeti ekyo nikikuwereka ki emihanda egyekujja nokyalo wanu gyekubiri buli omwe neyeryalya tulina okuyimuka tukamanya nko banyankole ebintu tulina kulukiramu tukekwataliza tukahindura ihanga lyaitu. And with that small, I would love to thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity. And lastly, if you allow me to make it 2 questions, how best can the diaspora people join into this movement? Because a lot of people are saying, but how best can we get a notch of them joining in and, putting their voices onto the voices of Ugandans back home, like how we saw the Kenyan brothers. They went on streets, they went in solidarity with those in Uganda. So those are my 2 questions, and thank you very much, Mr. President. Back to you.
Thank you, everyone. Mr. President, I'll request you to take on the last 2 questions and then closing remarks so that we can finish.
Thank you very much. I don't know how to go about this question. How can I help? How can you? There's this mentality, President Lagira, or no Lagira, the friends, teaching about me, Kulagira. For any revolution to materialize, people must understand.
Seems to be having network connections. Mr. President, can you try to unmute and get back to us?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Tomorrow, the program of our week, runs as. Mr. President, are you with us?
Yes, I don't know if you still hear me. Can you hear me? Hello? Allow any citizens, even those that are silent, to be in support, those that are helping legally, those that are helping monetarily and otherwise, those in the diaspora, those that are physically present in court and those that are protesting. Please keep going. It is not about one person, it's about many people. So let's do this together. Believe in it. It works and it will work. Finally, I want to encourage you, comrades. Many of you might be frustrated. You don't see huge numbers on the 1st or 2nd or even 3rd or 4th or 5th day. Keep going. Keep going. For as long as you don't stop. Keep going. When they tear gas, you keep going. They imprison you, you come out, keep going. This is the most powerful thing that this regime has ever dealt with, because you are non-violent. Stay non-violent. Don't allow anybody to abuse your noble cause. Don't allow anybody to come and divert these criminals and the like. I know the regime will also try to plant criminals among you so that they can get justification. They'll plant thieves to steal people's merchandise, and then they'll say, now the riots have turned violent. Don't be hoodwinked into that. Be on the lookout. Some of you should be protesting while some others are on the look for criminals. Most importantly, do not stop. We are at the turning point of history. One of the two has to win. Either corruption wins or morality wins. There's no middle ground. This is a face-to-face fight with corruption. You see, corruption has guns. Corruption has the courts of law. You've seen the wife of this man, Don Wanyama. Is a judge, so she, I'm told, is one of the judges that were just, sending people to jail to deter you from further protests. No wonder the husband is leading a national newspaper that was reduced to a tabloid that declared that protests had flopped. They're going to use all manner of machinations on you, but don't stop. Keep going, keep going, keep going. One of the two has to win, either the people or corruption. I'm sure if the people say they will win, they will win. We are together at every turn. I'm going to go ahead to encourage my fellow leaders. I'm sure many of them are here. but all other Ugandans, no matter your political affiliation, no matter your tribe, no matter your gender, no matter your age, and even those that are protesting, don't turn away anybody. Encourage everyone. If this is what is to bring us together as the people of Uganda, so be it. Let us all come together and save our country. I thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to more interactions with you, friends. God bless.
Mr. President, I don't know if you still have a minute or so. Remy had a question.
Oh yes, I do.
I know you already, we already told you to give the last remarks, but it's only fair we allow.
That's all right, that's all right. Please go ahead, Remy, and shoot your question.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chairman. My name is Remy Bahati, and I'm a journalist. Before I pose my question, I have an observation to point out, but also pose a question. But before I do that, I want to commend you for your strong stance against corruption. Your words today on this space do reflect duty on all of us who can enter amongst peers and President Museveni's defense of corruption. So thank you for that, and thanks to the hosts. When I met you in New York the other day, I told you that I want to be that consistent and annoying voice in your ears when you see something is off.
Yeah.
Something that I wanted to address on this space is the issue of consistency and solidarity within the opposition. It's good to hear you speak passionately about what happened in Kenya. We all saw those protests. They were absolutely mind-blowing. And the people of Kenya won with the world running behind them in solidarity. And from their success, we learned two important lessons. That's consistency and solidarity. I want to take you back and look at your own campaigns that you've been running. And in particular, one campaign that I want to point out is the Bring Back Our People campaign, which initially garnered significant global attention and support from several opposition supporters around the world. When our people, your people, were abducted post-election. But despite the initial success of this campaign, it has faded, and now we are back to internal conflicts of you fighting with Matthias Impuga or with Team Rap. And this is a prime example of how a lack of a consistent strategy and difficulties in maintaining prolonged pressure and unity can hinder people's power. This is just an observation. And there's some other campaigns that we've been running which appear fragmented, reactive, and uncoordinated. And this is not me gaslighting you. I'm not going to, I'll just use your word, I'm not gaslighting, this is just an observation. Which, from the people that we talk to, from other observations, especially in the diaspora here, it's undermining the public confidence and will eventually diminish the impact of these campaigns that you're running, stop corruption. And the consistency in the messaging of NUP has made it very difficult to sustain momentum, which is leading to internal divisions again and shifting priorities that dilute the effectiveness of these campaigns. Again, these are just observations and lessons we learned from the Kenyan protests. So my question is, with all that you've said, all these beautiful words you've said on this space, empowering the young people to get out there on the streets, at the end of the day, they're going to be jailed, which is a sacrifice we're all making. Some of us can't even come back to our country because of what we've written and the activism we're doing. So, what specific steps are you going to take to enhance solidarity and consistency in your messaging? With all these campaigns you're running to sustain the momentum and effectively mobilize Ugandans, mobilize your supporters to go out there and remove the dictator, like you always say. I'm just going to quote you, remove the dictator. So, I would really love to hear your thoughts on that, and I'll hand over the microphone to you. Thank you.
Maybe before you go off, you would do well to kindly point out the inconsistency in the NUP message, so I can know what I'm answering.
Honorable Chakulani, when we just got out of the elections, your key message was we're removing a dictator. And we're all looking forward to that. And again, like I said, I'm not going to be that voice on this space to clap for you when I know you have the potential to do you're always doing great. So I'm just re-echoing what I know. We're removing a dictator. You're running a campaign of bring back our people. I'm going to take you back to 2016 when you had just joined politics. The campaign we read with Dr. He's a message of I can't breathe. All these are campaigns which have faded as time goes by. And have you taken time to assess the impact of these campaigns that you ran? And how can we get this confidence that even today when these young people are marching to parliament, they're really going to stop Anita Among, or are going to have Anita Among and the likes of Matthias Mpuga saying
fighting corruption? Why do we keep shifting? I don't think we keep shifting. You remember that in one of Mandela's books he wrote and said, we want to change our country. And yes, we want to remove a dictator. And when we went to the election, we wanted to overwhelm the dictatorship. Yes, we won, but we were rigged out. And, brutality was unleashed. They pushed us from claiming our win to claiming the right to exist, because they started abducting people. And we were reduced to demanding for our people. As we speak right now, those people are still missing, and we are demanding for their unconditional release. So it is what the dictatorship does. Today, when they arrest me, we might be pushing for a certain campaign. But when they abduct Remi Bahati, we are going to be diverted to free Bahati. The same way, young people are supposed to be strategizing on where to march on Tuesday, but they are strategizing on how best to raise bail fees for their comrades. This is not inconsistency, Bahati. This is pragmatism. This is dealing with the challenges that they keep throwing to us. We are still on the mission to remove a dictator, unless, of course, if you're saying that we resigned to apathy and allowed General Museveni to rule us illegally and unconstitutionally. And we've not given up on that. But when you're demanding for a free and fair election, and then they abduct your person, and you know that most of the people they abduct, many of them are tortured, others are raped and sodomized in jail, you are reduced to grappling for the life of your comrade. So there's no inconsistency whatsoever, but it is demanding for the most immediate relief when it calls for it. I hope you're still there. And another thing, it would be really unfortunate if you reduce our fight against corruption to an internal fight. There's no internal fight in NUP. You all know that one of us was caught in a corruption scandal, and the NUP did what it promised. We stood firm on our principles and avoided double standards. So it is not an internal controversy like the media has been struggling so much to paint it. NDS and many other boat news agencies have been trying to frame this as an internal fight, an internal power struggle. That is not the case. That was a stand against corruption, and now all of you are joining in, and we are embracing that. So just to let you know that we don't have any internal fight, and also that we have no inconsistency whatsoever, Remy. We are still removing a dictator, but still when a dictator abducts one of our people, we are reduced to fighting for them, and then we will go back on course. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Robert Chagulanyi, for attending this space tonight. Again, I think this answers so many questions that were being thrown around about why these movements of the protests were causing. Many people came up with questions like, why don't you go on the streets every single day? Why are you struggling? Why is it like this? Why are you saying that we take a break for 3 days? I think this answers so many questions that you cannot leave your friends like we need to be in court. and then you're also on the street at the same time. I think this answers so many things that sometimes the dictator or the fight dictates your next move at a certain point. With that said, I think we'll be closing this space. Thank you so much again, President, for coming by. And we want to remind those that are on this space that fighting against corruption, that marching to parliament, that the move to remove Anita Amount to resign is still partyless, is still leaderless. Like I said in the beginning, before the first space crashed, we invited here the president of Honorable Robert Chagulanyi as an ordinary Ugandan or as a Ugandan or as a leader who is tired of corruption. So I still say that we need everyone on board, including our leaders, including the religious leaders. However, I want to say that the religious leaders, we wrote to them actually, and they shunned us. They were the first to say, we don't want to relate to you. But it is such a shame that the people we look up to shun us at the first step that we take to invite them. And the first to write back to us and say, no way, we are not going to be, but regardless we move. So we call upon everyone, every Ugandan that is tired of corruption to join the move. This is not political, it has no political leader, it is leaderless, it is colorless, it is electionless, it is borderless. So you have no excuse as a Ugandan to sit back and let your country go to ruins, because at the end of the day, the IGG was clear that when they get sick, they'll be relegated to go to the best hospitals out there. And
ensonga lwaki tebalina kyasimba kye basobola tuvunaana nti mwakoze kino ne kino ne kino. Nedda, balina kukozesa bulimba. Njagala okubasaba abaana b'e Masaka mubeere ahead, mubeere babuufu. Njagala okubakakasa nti oluvannyuma lwa byonna tugenda kuwangula kubanga tetulina musango. Tugenda kuwangula nti balayirira amazima ga Katonda mu ggulu.